All right, Casper, the one and only. How you doing? Happy Sunday.
Thank you, man. I'm doing good. Man, I really needed this long weekend. It's been a good Sunday so far, but looking forward to having some more time to kind of refresh and everything. And good to sit down with you and talk. It's been a minute actually.
Yeah, it has. And man, I got a million questions. But speaking of that, long weekend. I know you could be doing any number of things. So I appreciate carving out a few minutes to talk. I appreciate the persistence and getting together. We talked about this in a bunch of different kind of shapes and sizes over the last, gosh, I guess it's been maybe a couple months or so now.
Yeah,
So that being said, again, just really appreciate it, really excited. And also, you have super cool posters in the back there. Shout
thank
out,
you.
good taste. Do you have any others that aren't in frame, or are those kind of like the pinnacle,
Yeah,
so to speak?
that's the last one.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
So this one, it can maybe be a bit distracting for work, so I kind of try to frame it out, But
Yeah, yeah.
the other two get some good questions. Usually, I meet with a lot of C-suite execs and everything as part of my job, and so they usually know Nirvana, but then they look at the Sizzle one and they're like, "Who's that?" So it's
Oh,
always a
really?
good, yeah, conversation piece. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, talk about offering some value out of the gate is expanding the music palette. That in and of itself is a service.
Absolutely.
Right on. Well, let's like I said, got a million questions for you here. But to start, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started making music. How is that? What role has that played in your life so far? And also when you started taking it quote unquote seriously, as whatever kind of definition that means to you. But what's been the evolution of making music in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I think coming to music kind of came like later in my life, I guess, in the course of my life so far. I've always wanted to be an artist ever since I was a kid. I used to want to be like a comic book artist, like manga or even just like, regular American comics. My favorite comics growing up were Batman and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got into art in general, just being a kid and loving it. But I also always love to write. I've been reading from a pretty young age and, just creating stories, a place where your imagination can kind of fill in all the details and you can change things about the world you maybe want to change was always interesting to me. And I didn't really get into music until high school. A friend of mine, it really happened like randomly. A friend of mine made music and he was in class, in our Spanish class, working on a song, like writing it. And he was like, he couldn't crack this one line. Like he was like, oh, I gotta find something to put here. And he asked me and I came up with it like immediately. And he was like, yo, you should like, you should try this. I was like, all right. So I tried it. Like after that day, I just kind of was really, really persistent about it. I loved the Kanye thing. I think he was saying he was like did 5 beats a day for 3 summers.
Hmm.
So I was like, I can at least do 2 verses a day for for this summer, and I would just write. I would write about as much as I could. I would try to do different references. Some of them were really lame and stupid, but that's how you figure it out, right? Like that's how
Yeah.
you just dive in and then kind of get to know it for yourself. So that was when I was about 14. So I'm going on about 10 years of making music this year. And a beautiful 10 years it's been, and another 10 ahead of me, and maybe more after that. But yeah, it's been a minute for me.
Man, okay, I got a million questions. So I'm also a big Batman fan. Growing, that was my f- fun fact. Batman was actually my there's some wiggle room here, but Batman was actually my first word growing up. I don't think I got the T, but that so is would Christian Bale be your like quote unquote your Batman?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Man, I think the whole Dark Knight trilogy like nailed the crime aspect of Batman's whole world, and I love crime movies, and so
Hmm.
this that whole trilogy brought like everything together in a really cool way. And Bale, I think, is the best Bruce Wayne ever. Just really nailed the arrogance and the kind of like calculating nature, everything. So yeah, definitely my Batman so far. Although I really do like Robert Pattinson's, kind of depiction of him.
Okay.
I'm excited to see more.
Okay, I haven't seen that one yet. I'd agree. Definitely Christian Bale. I didn't see Ben Affleck either, but I'd agree. Bale sets a high bar. Um, but so crime movies, does that run the gambit from like mobster movies and whatnot too, or is it all kind of okay? Awesome,
Yeah, man, everything. But mob movies have a special place in my heart. Like I literally right before this call finished watching Casino with Robert
nice.
De Niro.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
a good one. That's a real good
yeah,
one.
yeah. It's been a minute since I'd seen it, and I usually like to take maybe a year or so between watching the classics like that, so I can forget a couple details and watch it all over again.
Yeah, and I bet it's like that's a really cool idea because I would guess I obviously don't do it, but guess that it is a different experience each time too. Like as you kind of grow, year passes in your life, the film probably looks different at each stage too, which is it's like a living, breathing thing in some regard. Um,
100%.
do you have like an underrated crime movie, like one that's in your pantheon, but you feel like other people don't talk enough about?
There is one. Let me see if I can find the name of this one. It's so it's about the beginning of like the five families, like literally before they
Ooh,
existed.
cool.
It kind of centers around Lucky Luciano and his close friends. Um, man, I gotta find it. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I opened up a can of worms now.
Yeah, it's called Mobsters. It's called Mobsters, and so
Monster, okay.
it's like Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, and one more. But basically, all these friends who came up in New York at the time and led to the founding of the five families. So I
Cool.
really just saw it recently, and it's amazing. Really, really liked it.
All right, I'll add that to the list. I will take up all the time talking about mobsters, but I just watched the documentary on Netflix, like real life mobsters now, about the NBA ref Tim something who was throwing games, and they had a whole backstory about like the mob connection there.
Yeah,
So that's been like front of mind a little bit recently, I will say.
yeah.
Um,
I just watched that this week too. Yeah.
what you think? Do you like it?
Great. I thought it was amazing. Just shows how much goes on behind the scenes that we have no
So
idea about. Uh, and organized crime has been a part of a lot of really important business decisions in this country. But
yeah,
yeah,
a crazy amount too. And I will say, like, I remember that news story. I remember like I'm trying to think back. I remember when it broke, or like seeing it on ESPN, like breaking news, ref throwing games, and it was really interesting to watch it kind of unfold again. It looks different. It looks and feels different now. However 10, 15 years later. So really cool story. But anyway, I'm down a rabbit hole. On the making the first song, I what is the song in English or Spanish? The language, not the class.
oh, the song that I wrote.
Yeah, was it part of like
It
an
was like
assignment or anything?
no, it wasn't part of the Spanish class at all. It was just him doing something completely different from school during school, and it was in English, but
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So, do you remember what it felt like? Maybe like the first moment you got like that spark of inspiration making music, like maybe the first time you went in a booth or like recorded yourself, and how that felt.
I do. That's a great question. It was that epiphany moment that you kind of try, like I guess chase or maybe hope for all your
Hmm.
life. Like I said, I'd always loved art. I'd always loved writing, creating stories, whatever it is. And when I finally got into songwriting, I had that moment like this brings everything together. Like everything that I like to
Mm.
do, everything that I'm good at. This is that thing all in one. And it also challenges me. Like I didn't really know how to rap for real. I didn't really know how to make great music, but that was part of the challenge. Like I had the building blocks, I had the talent, I had the desire to do it, and I was like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do for however long.
Hmm. Hmm. Has that feeling changed? Like, so fast forward 10 years when you are recording yourself or doing a show. I just saw some awesome clip. I'll get to that. But has that feeling inside changed or evolved, or is it does it still almost take you back to Spanish class in some ways?
Uh, yeah, that feeling is still there. I'm still chasing that same thing, like bringing everything together in one moment.
Hmm.
That's what music is to me. Like your experiences, your desires, your imagination, and your emotion, and just crafting something in that moment. That definitely still is the feeling I'm chasing. Um, but absolutely, like it has changed in a lot of ways. Like I think one thing that's really funny is that when I started making music, I never thought I'd be the type of artist who could make like big sounding music, like exciting, like fun music. I was like, I love Future. I loved like, really dark rap. I love like drum music. I love Chief Keef. I love stuff that
Mhm.
just sounded like grungy. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
totally.
And I thought that was the music I was always going to make. And so now getting to today where I'm able to make really big sounding songs that I imagine and picture and like specifically make for a club or a party or an event, like whatever it is, that's been a huge shift because it's just like I never even imagined it for myself, but I just kept going. And now I'm somewhere where I'm like, I can do even more than I thought I'd be able to do, which is a great feeling, but it just comes from putting the time in, honestly.
Totally. Yeah. Cliche, but like the 10,000 hours, right? Like you get in there and you kind of establish the, like, I don't know, like the boundaries or what works and what doesn't, and your own definition of all those things, like what big music means to you versus someone else. And that's kind of an interesting transition point. So one of the, so when we talked initially, again, a couple months back now, one of the things that made me most excited for this conversation was like your vision. Like you have the creative vision for the project and the art you're trying to put together. And even listening to you talk about it made me excited. And I'm not a musician, so um, I'm curious to hear like maybe this is an open ended question, but how I'll start here. What's like your creative process? Like, what are you tapping into right now? And do you have to go to like a physical place to start to write and record? How does that work for you?
Um, I do like to kind of get in the zone, like kind of create a specific environment for me to work. I am like a bedroom artist to
Mm,
my core. Like my first project was recorded majority in the dorm of UT Austin, and so it's always been a very personal, private process for me.
mm,
Sitting down, like now I'm sitting in my home studio slash office, and like coming in here. I have this like custom like Murakami neon light in my studio. I
cool.
flip that on, cut the lights off, close the door, and I just kind of lock in.
Mm,
A lot of it, throughout the years, obviously my process has kind of changed, but a lot of it is kind of revolved around feeding myself the type of media that I want to create that same feeling from. I
mm,
have a Tumblr that I've had for years and years, is where I collect a lot of the visuals and even other like media inspirations, graphic design inspirations, music, photography, whatever it is. I kind of use that to kind of get me thinking in the right direction, and then I sit down and sometimes it's a brain dump where I just like free flow
mm,
everything I'm thinking, and lyrics kind of arise out of that. Sometimes, and this is kind of more of a recent thing, I'll like journal just one liners, like just little things that I think about, little phrases, whatever it is. And then I will bring those up when I'm writing a song, like whatever fits the beat that I'm trying to work on or whatever it is. And sometimes the feeling just hits me. Like sometimes I'll kind of be humming and I'll catch a certain flow and I'll be doing something completely unrelated to music. Like I was out in my
mm,
living room the other day and the words just start coming to me. Like right then, the image pops into my mind, the setting kind of creates itself, and then I'm just flowing from that. I saw this little snippet of an interview of Michael Jackson recently. Some of my best friends are huge Michael Jackson fans, so they always have Michael Jackson stuff to send me. And it was Michael talking about how he's just a vessel for the music, like the song
mm,
writes itself. And I've always felt that way. Like the best music, and really the best whatever creative that you're doing, you're really just playing out your part in it, and it just comes to you. So many times I'm working on a beat, and I just hear the aspect that's missing. I just hear the drums, I just hear the bass, whatever it is, before it's even there. And that's how I treat creativity. Like the best thing you can do, in my opinion, as a creative, is just put yourself in position to be a vessel for the creativity, and then let it flow from there. Because you can't force it. You can get better at receiving it, though. You can get better at
mm.
telling it your way, and that's what the creative process is all about to me.
That's super cool. So, quick side comment: your Longhorns had a good day yesterday. I think they got
Yeah,
a big win.
good start. Good start to the
Yeah,
season. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. That's a really interesting framework, right? The vessel concept is rad, and that's a really interesting way to like navigate the world too in some way. And I'm kind of like extrapolating a little bit, so let me know if I'm going in the wrong direction. But um, it almost sounds like an assumption there is you got to be really open for the world and like whatever it's offering you. And um, I think like I said, I just think it's a really interesting way to navigate day to day. And I ask that question honestly, kind of consistently, like, what's your creative process? And part of it's because I don't make music, so I'm just curious as to how that works for people. But I that's another really consistent theme with that question is often like just living life, which I think is kind of an interesting framework because I don't know where, but along the way, I think I picked up an assumption that it was actually like supposed to be really hard. That artists would just like kind of sit down and it would be this really rigorous process of getting something on paper or some sound to come together. And again, consistently when I ask that question, most people say the exact opposite. It's just like I just go, receptive to what's out there and catch it as it comes. And that's anyway, less of a question, more of an open-ended comment. It's been really cool to hear about that with yourself as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it is a rigorous process. Sometimes getting your mind to be receptive and block out noises, distraction, whatever else is going on, and make music at that point. That's really the rigorous part of it. But when everything is working the way we want it to as artists, I think it just comes to us, and we just are able to, get the paint on the canvas, basically.
Right, right. Well, so you mentioned the Tumblr board. Are there any, consistent non-musical, like creatives you draw, inspiration from? Like you mentioned graphic design, like fashion, photography. Is there anything else that you find like in your, consistent, inspirations, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, movies are a huge one. Movies use music as a really big part of telling the story, and that's something I've always been interested in because I kind of reverse engineer it in my music. I think about the music in terms of the visuals and kind of helps me put that in. But yeah, movies are a huge one. I have recently started to get a bit more into the fashion side of things, like. I think, obviously I've always been interested in fashion and the way people dress and where that comes from and how we think about it. But I think more now getting into the specifics of like specific fashion photographers that I like. And I just bought this book randomly yesterday about this person named Diana Vreeland who like basically helped revolutionize Harper's Bazaar and Vogue and like made Vogue what it is today. But it's just weird stuff like that. Like literally, like you said, just living life. Like I went into this thrift store yesterday thinking I was gonna grab clothes. I didn't see any good clothes. Went to the book section. This book caught my eye and I ended up buying it. And that was, that's how I learned. I just kind of go after it. I just go and it all comes around creatively for me as an artist. Like I'll throw a reference into something and then people will, be like, how did you know about that? I'm just like, I just just read, I just learn. Yeah, that's all it is.
That's rad. Do you ever see yourself like? Would you ever be interested? Because you mentioned movies a couple times. Would you ever like gravitate towards writing a score or even getting into like the film world, or is it something? Are you comfortable with it, kind of just like living as this, this inspiration thing you enjoy?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm always interested in that, and like, whatever opportunities may come, I'm definitely open to it. My sister is actually into film. She went to school for screenwriting in New York, which is where she is now, and she definitely inspires me in that way and kind of helps me stay on my toes, just kind of learning how that side of things works and the terminology and the kind of ins and outs. Her being like deeply a part of it on her own. But then on my own, just kind of doing the research, knowing what I like in a movie, knowing what moves me, what's inspiring is like half of creating anything. Hey.
Yo, sorry about. Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. No
My bad.
problem. My dog jumped in at the perfect time, just gonna fill me with that air, so don't worry about it.
Perfect. Dog friendly here.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
what kind of dog? What's your dog's name?
His name's Bane. He is a
Nice.
staffy, and he's a little bit of a lab, but he just kind of looks like a pit bull. And he's a ton of fun, a lot of energy, and he loves to start to, get in my face whenever I'm on a video call. So,
Perfect timing.
yeah, yeah. Of
Bane is a Batman or just a separate?
course, man. Bane is in
Yeah.
that. Yeah, of course.
Nice. Right on. Right on. Well, cool. That's super super interesting. The film thread. Um, that being said, so I'll get getting close to the your music questions, but one other thing I wanted to ask about is you balance work or job and making music and being creative. I do as well. I think it's a thing that a dynamic that probably a lot of people are trying to balance. Um, so I wonder, like, if you have any words of wisdom, best practices, like, how do you go about that balance?
Um, oh man, it's a hard one.
It
It's
really
a
is.
constant, yeah. I mean, it's you're constantly juggling it, right, and trying to get it right. Um, I So one of the things I've been trying to do a lot more recently is just taking way more time and making way more time to be able to do both.
Mm.
I've like been waking up way earlier, like 6, 7 a.m. 6 on the good days, 7 on the bad days, and taking the time to like take my dog out to the park or and kind of get out there and read and kind of get some good inspiration and thoughts flowing to start the day, and then after work, man. You know, or during lunch hour, whatever it is,
Mhm.
creating content for TikTok or Instagram. And then after that, I have to do any photo shoots or interviews or video
Yeah.
shoots, recording, whatever it is all after hours. So 5 p.m. to the end of the day. That's what makes up all my
Mhm.
time, and then of course find time to exercise and eat and sleep and
Oh, that.
relax. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So do you, um, it sounds, correct me if I'm wrong, by and large, try to like compartmentalize the day. So, pre-work, walking the dog, and then you kind of have that focus, that mental space for work specifically, and then kind of navigating that transition at the end of the day. It sounds like you try to keep those lines like relatively clear, all things, being equal.
Yeah, as much as
Yeah.
possible. Yeah,
Do you work from home?
I do. Yeah, most days. This month I am gonna start going in at least one day a week, but probably two.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Um, again, I think it's kind of interesting to spend time on because again, I think it's a thing we all kind of navigate to a certain extent. And I've been going back to the office a couple days a week too. And it's interesting. In some ways, it's trickier, right? Because you got to commute and you have less time. In other ways, the lines are kind of clean, right? Like it's tough to tough to work on something else in the office, and it kind of keeps the again mental lines clear because I try to do something similar, right? Clear at the time, and that's the singular focus. So, anyway, I think we're all working on that to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that being said, you've been working on a lot of really cool stuff. You just had a show a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
I think the record it sounds like still in the works. So, what have you kind of been working on the last couple weeks? What should people keep an eye out for? What's in the works, etc.
Yeah, yeah. I did do a show a few weeks ago. I think kind of late July. Little open mic at Soho House here in Austin, which was cool. I'm always looking for kind of just more opportunities to perform, get my music out there in cool ways. Um, and then so the last couple songs I released were Ocean's 12 and Skydive
Mm-hmm.
in a 2 pack. Um, so we actually like a lot of this process of making the videos we did on our own, just the team in house here, and so those are done. They're ready to roll. I'm gonna get the Ocean's 12 one out this week, which I'm really excited about. It has a cool
Sick.
theme, and it's really like a lyric video visualizer or whatever it is, but
Mm-hmm.
really just try to give it some flair and something signature to really make it speak to what we're all about. And so that's I'm really excited about that. We have obviously another video for Skydive coming
Mm-hmm.
with it, and then just filmed a little short video for my song Climb, which I released back in like 2020. And then continuing to just kind of push some of the music I already have out. A lot of it,
Mm-hmm.
we were figuring out really the balance of making the music and also finding ways to push it and market it and get it to the right audience. So we're still trying to do that and give that music its shine because we think it's still so much value and impact that it can have. And then aside from that, man, I've been like fully obsessed with this idea for the next project that I'm making. It's called 98 Diablo. It is like the manifesto and like opening statement, first movie in the saga like type
Yeah.
idea, for not only me as an artist, but also for SOS, for our whole org, and really what we stand for, and the life we want to live, and the impact we want to have, both
Mm.
or really all around with, as creatives, as cultural contributors, as members of our community, whether that's artistic or just be the people that we are. And so it's been a spiritual journey. Honestly,
Mm.
it's been a lot of like figuring that out, and just putting a lot of different resources and different ways of thinking about it into that project. But something I'm extremely excited about. Probably have like another year before all that's good to go. But the process starts early, especially the type of conversations that we're having and the assets that we want to build around it for videos and content and all that other kind of stuff. So,
Mm.
just extremely excited about that, and that's kind of been the biggest thing on my mind creatively so far.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the team SOS. How'd you guys come together? Who does what? Um, any I'm always interested to hear how people, especially in the creative world, kind of come together and create that vision, that shared vision.
Yeah. So it started with, I want to say maybe 4 years ago, with me and my best friend Face. He is he kind of just became like my partner in all things creative. Literally
Mm.
anything that I needed to kind of help get the job done, or just whether it's a sounding board, or maybe I just need someone to help put together a project and kind of sequence track, whatever it is. Face has always been there to just push things forward, and bring a whole new level of basically excellence and authenticity to what we do.
Mm.
And so, that relationship really started off just as friends. Back when we met, Face was actually an artist as well. He's since stopped making music in that capacity, but is still very much an active part of what I make. And he just sat down with me one day and he was like, if you are serious about this, and if you really want to take this all the way, then I'm with you all the way. And I was like, all
Awesome.
right, let's do it. And so it's just kind of, we've had that type of trust and that type of relationship since then, like seriously seeing him as a partner and really, really valuing his opinion in every part of this. Um, and then later on, a friend of mine, Khalil, came into the picture. I think Face actually introduced me to Khalil, and Khalil does a lot of different things. He's a full time student right now
Mm.
at UT, where we all kind of met, and he also is like assistant, but he's serves in a lot of different capacities to this artist Dixon. Who's amazing, great vocalist, amazing songwriter, and so while being a full time student, he's constantly like traveling around LA, Philly, Chicago, whatever it is, to
Wow.
go, yeah, to go serve in that capacity, and then on top of that, he's also like, man, I don't even know what to call him for SOS. He's like a big picture guy. He helps put together everything from a music and creative and really like a value standpoint for
Mm.
what SOS is really about. So he really, we have a really, really close relationship in the music. He also helps produce. He's doing a few songs for 98 Diablo, just anything, photo shoots, content. He's there for all of it, and helping to do it on like a ground level,
Mm.
but also like strategizing everything on the big picture as well. And then we have Brandon, who is one of my best friends, who I've known since about as long as I've been making music, for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And we've just always been friends. We both have just kind of been on this creative awakening thing where he found his passion in photography and has leaned
Mm.
completely into it. And I've been just seriously ramping it up as far as music goes, as far as creativity goes, all around. And so he is kind of stepped into SOS with us to be, um, visuals and kind of do a lot of that kind of stuff, but also same as Khalil has a lot of influence on the structure and framework of how we create content,
Mhm.
whether it's visuals or photography, videos, all that kind of stuff. But then also just big picture as well, like really helping us to narrow things down and really execute, because I think that's what a team is for. Like, not only the more that you can dream and kind of put together plans for, but actually make it happen and hit the mark that you want to hit.
Yeah. Wow, that's a solid crew, and you guys go way back, which is really cool as well. Um, One thing you mentioned a couple times, kind of SOS as as far as what you want to put out in the world and values and all of that kind of stuff. This maybe is like a little buzzwordy, but do you guys have like a mission statement? Like, what's your North Star? What do you um, grounded in any again, I don't know, social impact or um, creative themes, etc.
That's a good question, and that's something that we have put a lot of focus into kind of formalizing and making concrete
Mm-hmm.
recently. That's part of the things we're working on for the project, is like a manifesto of like the things that
Cool.
we believe and like have set in stone. For me personally, that has boiled down to something um, really simple, which is a saying I heard from this woman I met in like a what's it called, like a nursing home
Mm.
back when I was in high school. And she said she always said this to her grandson, and she told it to us, and she was like, "It's really simple: stay safe and make yourself proud."
Mm.
And that is,
I
I
love that.
mean, yeah, it's pretty much how I live my life. Like, yeah, you got to take care of your business. Yes, you got to
Mm.
make sure your bills are paid and um, lights are on, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, there's one person who you go to sleep with every single night, no matter what, and there's one person whose opinion matters, and you're always going to hear, and whose design and idea for your life is going to be part of you, no matter what, and it's you. No matter what you believe, and I'm a religious person. That doesn't mean that I don't still,
Hmm.
submit to a higher power, and I don't, pray to God and do all these things. But at the end of the day, like,
Yeah.
it's me who I have to make proud, and that's how I live it. You just go fully at whatever you got to do. Make sure to take care of your business, but remember that there's just one you at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. Beautiful, like beautiful in its simplicity, right? Because I think, and I'll just kind of as far as like how that lands in my head. Number one, I completely agree, but I will say, like, as I kind of try to get this project off the ground as well. Like sometimes I find there's a, a little bit of a balance between like ambition and high expectations and planning and striving for more, but also not letting being proud of what you accomplish and not just kind of like always looking at what can be improved or what's next. So I think it's a really important thing to keep in mind because just speaking for myself, it's sometimes easy to lose track of that. So um, anyway, that's a really cool ethos. I like that a lot.
No, 100%. Like what you just said, that's something I've been working on a lot recently. It's
Mhm.
like I have so many things I want to do, but then I have to look around in my life and think like it's great. Like I've built a great life for myself, and I work very hard and trying
Mhm.
to do even more. But like, be grateful for what you have. Enjoy this and write the story, write the music, write the narrative off right now, because it's beautiful, and this is where everything happens from.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So cool. I'm already over on your time. Do you have room for a couple more questions? I don't
Of
want to
course, yeah,
take up.
man. I'm having a great time. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, good. So again, one of the when we connected initially, your creativity, your the project as a concept that you have in mind for 98 Diablo was contagious. It was infectious. So cool to hear about. So, um, assuming it's not top secret, do you want to talk about how how your vision for this project is coming together, how it's if it's evolved at all in the last couple of months? Because again, I heard it and I was just struck. It was really cool.
Yeah. It's not too secret. There's certain parts I
Okay.
gotta keep close to the chest, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, whatever
Um,
you're willing to share.
yeah. So really, this idea for 98 Diablo started with just that phrase. It just popped into my head one day, and I was like, "This sounds fire. It's gonna be the name of my next project." That's it. That's kind of how it started. But it gained so much meaning as time went on. Um, for one, I love the Lamborghini Diablo, the '98 Lamborghini Diablo,
It's
which
cool.
is
Yeah.
kind of where this thing got its name. It is. its design to me just represents kind of marrying, the past and kind of, older cars and older models and silhouettes and stuff like that with the tech and the power of the future, this kind of retro futurism thing. And so how that relates to the project is this project is really about that transition from the old me into the new me and this struggle, this tension, and really the chaos in between all that, I hit a point in my life within the past few months where I started to get comfortable. Like I said, my life is great. I don't have any complaints, and I really had nothing to worry about. And that's a weird spot to be in because I had to realize for myself that at a certain point in life, maybe when I was like 15 or 16, this is what I imagined. This is what I wanted. This is what I envisioned. And to that end, I had kind of achieved my dreams in a certain way, but I was in this spot where I was still struggling to really accept that I had to put down this dream to pick up the next one, which is everything that I want to do in music and as a creative, and really taking that step out for myself. And that's what this project is about, and especially how that plays into, heartbreak. I think that is a huge thing on this project. As much as it's about me going from old me to new me, part of that process has been, my relationship of like 3 years that ended in the past few months, and so that triggered a lot of the change, a lot of the motivation and dedication and focus that it took to create this project and to get to that next stage for myself. But it's also about the fact that that process of change is about love. Like, I don't want to change and get better just because I don't like who I am today or because life is so bad and all that kind of stuff. I love who I am, and I love what my life is, and I love the potential of what it can be as well. And so that's why I do what I do, because I love the present, and I love the present enough to make the most of it. And making the most of the present, I'll get an even brighter future for myself and for the people around me and for the people that I want to impact. So that's really the idea behind this project, which maybe sounds abstract, but man, the way that it plays out in terms of the visuals that we're planning, which has been a huge aspect of this project, and just the songs that I've already recorded. I'm about 10 songs into the project out of 14 right now. So, just the way that it's played out across the project, I'm extremely proud of. I think it's the biggest message that I've done. I think it's the truest one. I think it's the one that represents me and our organization the best so far. And I'm just excited to execute on it fully. Like I said, to hit all those marks and for it to be fully realized and then just put it out to the world. So,
Man, there's so much to unpack there. A quick question off the top. So you meant 10 or 14 songs. When did you break ground on the project, quote unquote, like roughly speaking? Is this, are you a month in, 6, a year, etc.?
Yeah, there's a couple songs on the project that are probably about a year old that, I just recorded and I didn't place them. I was just like, I'm just making music, I'm just making music. And now that I have the concept, those themes that I wrote about fit so well with the established themes of the project, so I kind of pulled a couple things in. But also, I think really, honestly, probably May or June is when I really started to put in the thought and the really the formulated order around making a project, and really start to make the music with certain themes and ideas and visuals in mind.
Got it. Okay. And so again, a couple more follow-up questions there. And I realize, we're talking about some personal stuff, so let me know if you don't want to get into it. But you mentioned kind of the comfort with where you were, and I'm curious as to what that actually looked like in your life. And the reason I ask is because I'm almost getting a similar sense of for where I am right now, which is to say and more specifically, I was getting some burnout because it's a lot of work to do all this, right? And we got jobs, and it's tough to balance. And I was like sitting down the other day to do something on, a to-do list, and I was like, dude, I'm exhausted. Like, do I really need to do this? Like, I'm pretty comfortable with where I'm at. I could, just keep going. It would be all right. And the last couple of weeks have been kind of like an exploration of, um, to what extent this project like fills a need, or is it for pride? Is it for something else, et cetera? So kind of that whole process. And so anyway, that's what I was thinking of when you were mentioning that. So I'm wondering like how that manifested itself in your life.
Yeah, a lot of those things you mentioned, and I think realizing that that's so common was what helped me kind of dig out
Yeah.
of that space. But yeah, I mean, with my music and with my work, with even with like exercise or like getting out and having new experiences, I started to kind of shy away from some of that stuff. Like I
Mm-hmm.
started to just feel like, oh, like I'm good where I'm at, and I kind of just need to enjoy this, which was true to a certain extent. I did need to embrace the present, but um, I just stopped being as hungry for what's
Mm-hmm.
next, and
Yeah.
I kind of started to excuse that or like justify it as like, oh, I'm not being grateful for right now. I need to be grateful for right now. But the truth was that at the end of the day, when you know what you're capable of, nothing else really can stand in that place. Like other
Mm,
people can say to you, "Oh,
for
you're
sure.
doing great," and like, "What else do you need? What else
Yeah.
could you possibly want?" Blah blah blah. But it's like, when I know what I can do, what I have right now. If it's not what I know I can have, and if it's not what I know I can create, then who cares? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one that can make that help happen. Otherwise, everybody else is gonna look at me and be like, "Oh, great job, pat on the back, blah blah blah." And like, it's easy to settle into that feeling of like, "All right, great job." You know what I'm saying? And it may be a great job, but
Yeah.
it's not the best that I can do with what I've been given, and that's what I want. That's what I want for me. That's what I want for the people around me, and that's how I work, and that's how I like dedicate myself to it. And so it was just digging out of that space, and then realizing like you don't go harder because you have to, because you need to. You go harder because you can, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's in you to do so. And just
Yeah.
every day, as much as you can, you just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I feel like even that to a certain extent, yeah, just speak for myself, has is kind of like a process of discovery too, and like to what extent you can keep going, or what that means to like keep just all things being equal, firing away as hard as you can versus like working as hard as you can within the parameters in which it makes sense. In other
Hmm.
words, like maybe it actually is like really beneficial to go take a break or like just go get dinner right now and not just like bone grind this away. Um, and I feel like that's something I've had to learn is like when does it make sense to keep going? When does it actually when is there some value in pumping the brakes and like getting that breath? But you're hitting on another theme that just kind of speaking of like simple phrases that stick with you. I remember my one thing my dad told me once that's stuck with me my whole life is like you can't lie to yourself, and it's kind of coming to mind with the like you know pride and going to sleep and how that feels and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and working as hard as you can, like exploring. Can I go harder? What does it mean? So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but it's been like front of mind recently, so it's interesting to kind of hear how that's manifested itself for you as well.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I'm talking a lot here, but also just a tip of the hat and kind of the like the self love piece you mentioned, kind of like the heartbreak and how that fuels kind of this next step. Because I mean, I imagine it took some time and effort and process to get to that place too.
Oh man,
So anyway, I can't
I'm
imagine
still
it was
struggling
easy.
for it. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not easy. But then I thought like none of it is easy. Like none of the things I want to do in my
Mm,
life are easy. And while I'm dealing with heartbreak, while I'm dealing with loss, and trying to figure out a way forward and figure out what my life looks like now outside of that relationship and all that other kind of stuff, I'm like, I'm gonna be uncomfortable anyways. Like that. Those feelings they suck, and
yeah.
I'm laughing about it. But later, I'll like be deep in thought and like staring out the window. But
I also am laughing, but that makes sense. Yeah.
no, but all those things being true, I'm gonna be uncomfortable either way, right? And so I'm like, if I'm gonna be uncomfortable either way, I might as well be working towards my goals. I might as well be
Mm,
uncomfortable and getting stronger and growing and learning and having new experiences. Um, because I'm gonna have to go through these feelings regardless. And maybe they end in 3 months. I just hit the
Mhm.
3 month mark. Maybe they end in six.
Cheers.
Maybe they end in a year. But in any case, in 3, 6, 12
Yeah.
months, I want to be way closer to my dreams than I am right now. And all I can do is embrace all those things
Hmm.
and pour it into the music,
Yeah.
pour it into the story, and be as authentic as possible, and then hope that I hope that I am closer at the end of the day.
Totally. And because I mean, another way to look at or a piece of that is like they're all inputs too, right? They're inputs to your story and this project and whatnot. So um, again, it's a really cool perspective that I admire. So a tip of the hat. Um,
Appreciate
that being said, I have taken up plenty of your time. I have one more question, but is there anything that we brushed over that we should talk more about? Any questions that I should have asked about but didn't? Can't break without hitting on, etc.
I mean, no, not anything huge. I mean, yeah, I'm super excited about 98 Diablo. Happy to talk about, kind of my journey from the beginning to here. But just, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this stuff talking about the motivation that it takes to get there and kind of the ups and downs of that
Mm-hmm.
is super important. So I've had a lot
Totally.
of fun so far.
Right on. I'll take it. So my last question, and this I should say, this is like I'm experimenting with a new theme for these conversations, which is like and a little bit of backstory. Like one of the I asked about your mission earlier. One of the kind of like missions of my project is I'm trying to create with these like book club for music things. Trying to create space for people to like share and explore the personal connection they have to bodies of work that may be tough to get at, on Twitter or no disrespect to another company or anything like that, but in other mediums. So with that in mind, I've been trying to like think about this concept of like just tell me a story of a relationship you have with a record. So I'm wondering if there's any story you have or want to share, like can share with a record, a whole body of work, maybe a record that's played somewhere in the soundtrack to your life. It's something like along those lines.
Oh, like something I've heard or something I've made?
Well, either one. I guess I was going more for something you've heard, like a body of work that again is important to you. But I'll take either one. They both work.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. There's so many that just kind of play into that. Um, I'll have to go with Yeezus.
Mm,
Yeezus was one that changed the way I looked at music, and there's been a few albums like that. Like I think Childish Gambino's Camp, and because of the internet, were another one of those. A couple of Drake records were those, but I think Yeezus. Um, I remember specifically first time I heard it. This was during like the era when albums were leaking like a lot more often,
yeah.
and I specifically remember in my family's old house in McKinney, Texas. We had this computer and it's like a desktop in this little like kind of nook area right near the back door, and I'm like sitting there, and I have the headphones on, and I just download this Yeezus leak, and I hit play on the first song, and I'm listening 30 seconds in. I'm like, wait, I must have downloaded the wrong thing. Like, this isn't Kanye West.
Yeah.
and I go Google, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I figure out this is it. And so I listened to this whole thing. And by the end, I was like, you can't do this. Like, you can't just, like
Yeah.
break all the rules of like a genre or like whatever it is, or just the pure raw emotion and
Mm,
noise and whatever that he put into this album. I was like, this is too, it's too much. It's over the line.
yeah.
And then I thought about things like 808s and Heartbreaks, and he had been inching towards that, like kept
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries and stuff. And then that album made me realize, yeah, you can push whatever boundaries you want. You can make whatever kind of music you want. The only people that care about genres are the people who want to slip you in a playlist or on a award or whatever it is. You just make music, make it as true and authentic as possible to your experience and your vision, and then let everybody else worry about the labels and the genres and the all that stuff, all the mixing, and like, oh, this song is too loud, or this song
Mm,
is whatever. Like, who
yeah.
cares? Do it your way. and that's it.
Yeah.
So that album was like changed the way I looked at how you can even create, especially as a rapper. Like, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, the term rapper has been viewed as such a limiting thing, and I kind of agree with that. I always referred myself as an artist because, like Kanye's an
Hmm.
artist. You know what I'm saying? I want to be an artist. I want to just make great music and have great creative experiences for people to indulge in. I don't care if it all fits into the box of rap or hip hop. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah.
That's those are great ones. So two comments on kind of like the first half and the second half. I heard an interesting take the other day, which was that, and I kind of I can see the arguments both ways, but this I forget who was saying it, but the person was basically saying that we've kind of like transitioned from um, music or albums being like the soundtrack to people's lives or like a chapter of someone's life to this phase of like the background music in someone's life. Like it kind of just always exists everywhere with all the things we're doing versus like um, I don't know, maybe albums that marked like social change or like important historical events or whatnot. So anyway, the merits of that take aside, like I said, I could see it going both ways. I think there's a handful of artists or albums, kind of in our lifetime, we're kind of a similar age, that may be the exception to that. And I think Kid Cudi, Childish Gambino, some of those records were definitely soundtracks to some of the formative years, like in our lives. I remember clear as day listening to those records on repeat, and being really impacted by them. So anyway, just kind of an interesting thought that's kind of I've been turning over a little bit recently.
No,
Um,
100%, 100%. I listened to the honestly Nevermind record two
yeah.
weeks after my breakup, and it's in the middle of the summer. It was literally like June. I remember we were listening to it on a road trip down to Arizona, so it's like June 19th, I think it dropped,
Mm.
and I'm listening to this, and it sounds like the music itself is all upbeat and kind of makes you move and blah blah blah. And that's summer, you're supposed to be outside, you're supposed to be having
Yeah.
fun with your friends and blah blah blah. But the lyrics are like heartbreak, heartbreak, heartbreak,
Heavy.
heartbreak,
Yeah.
And that was my experience at the time. So that was one where it kind of made me believe again in the whole soundtrack to your life thing that
Mm.
like artists can make
Yeah.
music like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I have a couple of albums that jump out to me as far as like at surface at first glance the feeling is very different than the lyrics. And sometimes I'll catch myself and be like, oh wait, this is like really something to like sit. I gotta like process this because we're getting into some heavy territory here. So um, anyway, and then on the other piece, I forget. Oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy. Who said the line? But Stevie Wonder comes to mind. Don't quote me; it could be someone else. But the sentiment was basically like it's the job of an artist to break down genres, or the kind of like boundaries between different types of artists and records and whatnot. And I've always thought that was like a super cool line because I think at its best, and the people who do it best are breaking down those artificial barriers between different sounds. So I think that kind of aligned with what you're getting at. So anyway, all those records are excellent. So you got good picks there.
Thank you, thank you.
All that being said, I think I almost doubled the time here, but I sincerely enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I know it took some effort to get to this point as well, so I appreciate your carving out a few minutes. We covered a whole heck of a lot of ground. So, cheers on all the hard work. I know you got a lot of exciting stuff in the mix, and yeah, I would love to stay in touch as the project comes together. We'll be, looking for the leaks, so to speak, as they arise. But anyways, cheers. This was a really fun conversation.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for being as patient as you've been. I know they were like, I wasn't the easiest person to get on the call. Um,
Please.
I'm sorry for all that, but amazing conversation. Time flew by, honestly, man. I had a lot of
It
fun.
really did.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
anyway, again, no, the honor's mine. So thanks for your time, and yeah, we'll talk soon, and
All right.
enjoy the rest of your long weekend.
You too, man.
All
Peace.
right, later.